Well, I absolutely agree the money's there if we choose to spend it that way. I absolutely agree with putting upwards pressure on the people who are spending the money. But the real problem is, how do we get the match between the money being available and actually channeling it to where it has to go? With respect, the Labour Party can't do it because it hasn't got parliamentary power. You're not convinced the NHS is going to last that long. What can we do?
Thank you. Mr. Levy.
Oh, hi. I'm sorry I've got a bad throat. My name's Kelly Checker. I'm a counsellor in Sunderland in the Southwick, but I'm also a nurse consultant and I work in the NHS. And I work at the moment at the Curie in Gateshead. I work within the medical division, so we're obviously in the middle of a winter crisis, but also our maternity services have really been put under strain with the South Tyneside closure. So I've seen firsthand some of the impact on that. I sit on the Scrutiny, Health and Wellbeing Scrutiny Committee in Sunderland, and I'm also on the Joint Scrutiny Committee for the Northumberland, Tyne-Wear and North Durham STP. So I see this from a lot of angles, but actually what I wanted to talk about was the impact on us as nurses. I'm a nurse first, and I'm very much involved in running keeping the staffing levels right on the wards within Gateshead, within the Curie. Our recruitment is, we are, 5 years ago I didn't work at QE, but if we advertised a nurse post, we'd have 12 people applying for a qualified nurse post. We're now getting none. We are not getting any graduates from the university because the university can't fill places. The cut to the bursaries in relation to qualified student nurses coming through, people are not even applying to do the training because they can't afford to do the training, never mind living in the wage that's being paid to them. So we're running wards at a dangerously low level. I'm actually working in the organisation at the moment to support them through an unfavourable CQC report, to say the least. That inadequate rating that the services receive from the CQC is directly linked to the fact that they cannot fill the posts that they've got, and that's both in medical recruitment but also in nursing recruitment. Cannot get the staff to work in the wards, and the staff that we do have are leaving in their bed droves. They are off sick, they are unable to, so we don't have a nurse bank that's adequate enough to fill the gaps. We've got our own staff working additional hours. I've got staff working well over and above the European Working Time Directive because there's nobody else, because they care about the patients, because the patients are suffering. So this service is actually one that's going down and down and down, and through no fault of their own, because they cannot get nurses to come and work in them. The nurses are leaving at a rate far higher than they're coming in. And we're not talking a couple, we're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of nurses are leaving, and we cannot bring them in. We're employing nurses via agencies at the moment, where we don't have the proper confidence that they've got the right skills, the right knowledge base. They don't know the patients. They're coming in and doing one shift at a time, and we're paying them. I see the budgets. I'm involved in that, and paying of signing off of invoices, and we're paying these nurses 3 times. No, we're not paying the nurses. We're paying the agencies 3 times what we're paying our own staff. And actually, that's then making the situation worse, because we are then overspent, so then we're having to account for that in relation to the recruitment, and therefore we cannot then fill posts even if we get people coming in. It's spiralling, and it is not one that we can control within either, our local organisation. The local NHS has no control over this. The universities are doing everything they can, but they cannot, without correct support for people to do their training, because we want people from everywhere, and that includes people who've got families. A lot of graduate nurses are people that are coming in. They're not 21 with no responsibilities. They cannot do this training without bursary. And I don't think until we get rid of the pay cap, bring back the bursaries, and stop the staff leaving in their droves because they're on their knees, we're going to get no one. We're going to have more people in this situation rather than less. I don't think there's a question in there, but
thank you.
Can I just follow on from that very eloquent position there. I have many friends in the health service, and they're all in a negative spiral at the moment. And you highlighted that, and that is a great, great danger, a massive negative spiral. And I cannot understand when those bursaries were stripped out. You know, it was a recipe for what is happening today. It's unbelievable for the little money that it actually saves and the rupture that it's actually causing and impacting upon, you know, the working lives of some of the hardest working people that we actually have in this country. And that kind of eloquence that's come from there needs to be echoed in the House of Commons. It needs to be echoed in our community because they cannot sustain it for much longer. And the perversity it's these agencies who are ripping the money out of it, non-public money. Okay?
Thank you for that. Is there anybody who's got a last burning question? Because it's getting on for 1:30 and I think we should finish at 1:30. You've already had one. Is anybody?
I was just asking, could I have an
Has
answer?
anybody who has?
I've just got a quick one.
Come on.
In response to the lady's question about the NHS march, there is an NHS march happening on the 3rd of February, which is a Saturday. It's down in London. It's being organised by the People's Assembly and also by the Health Campaigns Together group, which got mentioned earlier from the platform. So there is a national demonstration happening on Saturday, the 3rd of February, and I think there might be a coach going from Newcastle being organised by the people. So that might be an action point which some people might want to do, meeting and book on that coach from Newcastle.
Right, thank you, Mark. Right, I'll just let them.
Right.
people finish.
Was yours the question about running deficits and
Yes.
not meeting the targets set? Right. Now, because I have just put a ring round that because I realised I hadn't answered that one. The councillors in the room, Dave and others, will be able to probably tell me if what I'm going to say is correct. Councils can't run a deficit. You've got to have a balanced budget. Is that right, Dave?
Well, we can't. You've got to have a plan.
Then you can be taken
yes.
over. Yeah.
No, you're going to have a deficit budget. You've got to have a plan to get out of it, and you've got to have you've got to have permission as well.
Yeah. And I know that the Secretary of State then can send somebody in to sort of oversee and take charge and, you know, basically slap your wrist. And so then they would just meet the targets anyway and make all the cuts. And it wouldn't be local people making those cuts then. It would be someone from on high coming down and taking over, because they would say that the council was unable to, run a balanced budget. Now, I would imagine CCGs and hospital trusts and all of that are the same. I know that some trusts will run into deficits, and sometimes have got to, as Kelly was saying, you know, when they've got to hire agency staff, it's going to cost 3 times as much. That's bound to make them go over budget. But, you know, probably the government will look favourably on that, or not punish that, because obviously, you know, it's of their making. But if there was trusts in hospitals and councils deliberately not making cuts and trying to run things the way they should, the way they'd like to, I think they'd be met with a whole different sort of reaction from the government then, who would just come in and do it, you know, take over and do it anyway. And I know there's the whole legalities around that. So, you know, sometimes for some of these people, as much as, you know, and I know that, like the whole Safe South Tyneside campaign, they're saying it's all about, you know, they're trying to do it within the spending envelope and everything. But as we know, the problem with that is there was other ways to do it again, wasn't there? It wasn't, you know, and that's the problem. We all know that, you know, they've all got these insidious choices to make, and the councils had to make some terrible ones, and the councillors will tell you that they've lost literally, is it 50% from in the last 7-8 years of your budget? So it's huge.
It's an awful lot of money, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally practically they've got half the budget than they had 7 years ago. If it's not half, it's like 45%, it's nigh on half. And they've got to do the same. Well, you can't do the same, so obviously a lot of things have had to go. But those things that have had to go, you know, maybe the first 10% of them where, you know, you could live without, but by the time you're getting down, we're down to the bones, and we're giving away the bone marrow now. It's like it's gone beyond. So that, I don't know if that helps answer your question. What can we do while we haven't got the power? Oh gosh, this is why we've got to get the power. I mean, we've just got to carry on doing what we're doing. We're doing it within Parliament, trying to hold the government to account. Was that your question, Kelly? What do we do while we haven't got the power?
That's Dorothy's.
Is that Dorothy? Yes.
What is being done now is not enough.
Yeah.
You need to tap into the sense of anger that we're all feeling about what's happening. And as Dave said, it's not just about the NHS.
Oh, it's
although
across
that's
the board.
It's about cutting all public services. We're getting very angry.
Yeah.
How do we take our anger and make it into something?
Yeah.
Asking pet questions in Parliament is not good.
No. And what you've got to remember is when we are in opposition, when the Tories are in government, the only opposition is us. They don't have any media to amplify it. So the media is in government with the government. When it's the other way around, when Labour are in government, we have the opposition, the Tories, and we have the media. And the media, anything we do that they don't like, the media is doing the main opposition, supporting the Tories. Now, we haven't got that at all. The government, we can stand up and shout every day in Parliament. It's not amplified at all. The only paper that helps us at all is the Daily Mirror. The Morning Star, yeah, but it's not how the readership probably is not what we would like it to be. But we haven't got any of the massive big media or on news. BBC, the Tories think it's left wing. We know it's not left wing. You know, they say if us on the left don't think the BBC is being right wing, and the Tories think the BBC's been left wing, the BBC say they're doing a good job, because you know everybody thinks that they're not for them. But so we haven't got the BBC. They've got to be neutral. We haven't got any. You know, and this is the problem, because when the Tories are in, they have the media, especially the written press. They've got that on their side, sort of taken the fight and taken the noise to the people. So it's us. All we've got is us, is people power.
But the only difference is, you're right about the media, but the NHS crisis is so bad and it's affecting so many people that even the BBC are actually reporting on it. So messages about the NHS crisis and why it's getting where it is can actually be amplified in a whole range of ways.
Yeah, and that brings, like, to what Kelly said as well, we're hearing more and more than ever before, nurses and doctors and consultants like Kelly coming out and saying things that probably they would have always couched or been more careful. And they're saying, I mean, Kelly's in this meeting here amongst friends, but people are now, there was on the media just last week, the winter crisis, in their uniform, walking out of the A&E, coming out going, oh my God, this is so bad, like, I've got to come and tell you. You know, a consultant, I've never seen that before. And I suppose that's your point. We need that across the board, not just with the NHS, but we need people who, you know, we need those people at the top of CCGs and the top of the chief executives who are always apolitical, always try. We need them to start saying, you know, enough is enough, I can't do this anymore, I'm the chief executive of this council, I'm the, you know, whatever of the CCG, and I cannot do this. What I'm being asked to do is now impossible. I've done these cuts, you know, I suppose until we start hearing those voices of those people who in the past have always tried, and, you know, to give them their due, being politically restricted, we need those politically restricted people to sort of come out and say, you know.
How can Scotland reach the targets? Because I was a hospital in Edinburgh, waiting for my train, and it was on the news that Scotland was the only one that could reach the targets.
No,
and
they're not.
it was that's what they said in the media.
Yeah, because I think
England couldn't reach the targets.
No, I don't think Scotland are as bad, but they're not meeting their targets.
I think the latest on the news about Scotland was that actually quite quickly catching up with our unfortunate circumstances. And I just want to say, it's great, yeah, we need to target these, but what I want to say is there's a lot of people at ground level who have so little interest. They're so apathetic because they've been run down for so many years. We need to get those people on board. And I think we each have that responsibility to try and get people on board and get rid of the apathy and get them fighting for what's important.
Well, I'm going to stop this because it's 8:30 and the meeting closes at 8:30. We've got the raffle to draw. I just want to say thank you very much for our speakers for being absolutely brilliant. I'm sure you'll agree. Thank you for all the questions and comments, which we could have gone on for at least another half an hour. If you are interested, can you sign? If you are interested, can you sign the sheet at the back so we can keep you informed about the next meeting? Write to your MP about the reinstatement of the NHS bill. Make sure that they sign the early day motion about it, and get involved with State South Tyneside Hospital campaign because it's going to affect us all. Thank you very much all for coming. It's a horrible night. We really appreciate it.
That's why
116 to 120.